Have you ever thought about what would happen if you mix Dreamcore and Pixel-art? Well, if you don't know what it is, let me give you a quick heads up. For those unfamiliar, Dreamcore is an aesthetic that blends nostalgic and surreal elements to create a dreamlike atmosphere. It uses unsettling images that feel like a foggy childhood memory, while Pixel art is just our old and classic retro art style, and as you know, it's mostly present in old games such as RPGs and platform fighters. I've been studying Pixel art recently because I really want to make a game one day, and this is when an idea just popped into my head. A little silly experiment. What if I put Dreamcore and Pixel art together? What would that even look like? This is how my experiment went out. Little disclaimer. I'm not a professional pixel artist yet. These are just my personal tips, so if you're passionate about pixel art, you should look up some professional guides. Setting up my canvas. To start, I made my canvas relatively small, around 500 to 800 pixels. This was important because it made the individual pixels more visible and easier to edit, which gives the art that classic pixelated look. But I still suck at drawing backgrounds by memory. Getting all the details and dynamics right is really hard for a mere mortal like me. So then, I decided to find a picture to use as a reference for my background. And the picture I chose was this one. It's a place that was familiar to me, a road I used to ride my bike when I was a kid. And I was aware of most of the details of this place, therefore it would be easier for me to draw it. I found out that using a reference makes rendering backgrounds much easier too, especially for someone who struggles with this sometimes. Then if you want to make a background, you should try it out. But even so, getting the lines right was almost impossible. Everything was cranky and hard to draw. Then to fix this problem, I decided to use that thing, the perspective ruler. Basically, it's a tool that you can use to align the vanishing points with the major lines of your reference image. And by using this, I would have a solid guide to work with. But if you're kinda dumb and don't know how it works, let me explain quickly how to use it in CSP. It's actually very simple, so here's a summary. Let's start by the vanishing points. Imagine a road stretching to the distance. Parallel lines of the road appear to meet at a single point on the horizon. This point is what we call a vanishing point, and the CSP perspective rulers use these points to guide your lines. And next, we have the horizon line. This is your eye level in the drawing. All the vanishing points sit on this line. You can move the horizon line up or down to change your viewing angle. And to edit, just go to your layer, ruler frame, perspective ruler. Then you can basically choose up to 3 different point perspectives. The 1-point perspective is great for looking straight at a scene, like a simple corridor. The 2-point perspective is ideal for drawing something like a corner of a building. And the 3-point perspective is mostly used to extreme angles, like looking up at a tall building or down from a great height. You can also manually create a ruler by selecting the perspective ruler subtool and place 2 rulers to create a horizon line. This gives you more control to draw your guides. Once you have a perspective ruler on your canvas, it's like a magnet for your brushes and pens. As long as the Snap to Special Ruler option is enabled, it's a small magnet icon on the command bar. Your lines will automatically follow the perspective rulers, creating perfectly straight lines that lead to your vanishing points. And you're not stuck with the nature rulers you create. You can easily adjust it to fit your needs using the object feature here. Then I sketch out the big stuff first, buildings, roads, and so on, without worrying about tiny details. I just wanted to get the overall feel of the scene down. But there was a problem. CSP isn't a program built to make a pixel art, so to make things easier, I downloaded some pixel brush packs from the CSP asset store. And even though the program isn't built specifically for pixel art, these tools that the community created made the process somehow possible, creating the uncanny valley feels. This was the fun part. To add the Dreamcore aesthetic, I focused on a few key aspects. First one was color palette. I chose a natural color palette, colors you wouldn't normally see in real life. My palette choice would often include cold blues and greens as the darker areas, and a solid warm reddish pink for the highlights. I tested the colors in the sketch and, just as I wanted, they made the scene feel unsettling and weird. Then we have the layer organization. I basically skipped all the line art and went straight to filling the main shapes of the composition on separate layers, like one from the road, one from the buildings, trees, etc. This made it easier to render and shade each element individually. Then the flat shading. By using a simple flat shading technique with the pixel pencil brush, I slowly added depth and textures, focusing my efforts on the most important parts of the composition while keeping less important parts like distant buildings and foliage simple and flat. And finally, I added props that felt out of place and nostalgic for me. In this piece, I included a telescope from my favorite game, a Game Boy I used to play games on, and a random old TV in a field of grass. These objects are from another illustration study I made using the perspective rules and pixel brush packs from the CSP. The art itself was more complex and used line art plus normal render techniques, so I didn't really like the flow of the process and didn't stick to it. Even though the result at the end wasn't as bad, practicing different techniques by drawing several different pieces of the same thing is essential to learn how to do anything. Anyway, these elements were meant to represent the passage of time, how memories become foggy and how reality and dreams can often blur together. So then, after making some final adjustments to the colors and textures, this was the final result. Two pieces that felt both nostalgic and strange at the same time, I guess. And in my opinion, it was a really interesting art experiment, and it made me think about how quickly time passes and how our memories can often be mistaken for a distant, severed dream. I hope you enjoyed this experiment, and if you did, be sure to like and subscribe. I might come up with something interesting next time.